Please spread the following information. 100,000 Africans, mostly children, will die of malaria in the next 12 months. They would not die, but for casually cruel politics in America. Malaria may have killed half of all people who ever lived, according to a Nature journal article. It certainly kills more Africans than any other disease. It is a protozoa, not a virus or bacteria. If a virus was a marble, bacteria would be a basketball. The malaria protozoa would be a semi-truck. SARS has 30,000 nucleotide pairs. The malaria protozoa, nearly 30 million. No vaccine exists for something that complicated. There are many efforts. You have to intersect the spore in the hour or so it takes to reach the liver. It's a really hard problem. But you can stop a malaria infection in its tracks with inexpensive medicines. You can reduce transmission with bed nets impregnated with stuff mosquitoes don't like, and reduce mosquitoes with carefully applied insecticides. In 2005, George W. Bush enacted the President's Malaria Initiative. The goal: reduce malaria mortality in Africa by 50% in 10 years. At the time, I was writing legislators, had a website up promoting anti-malaria investment. I had no influence over George Bush, but appreciated his efforts. The program was enacted by USAID, provided bed nets, insecticides, and medicines to children and pregnant women, the people most likely to die from malaria. It was very successful. In 10 years, mortality was reduced 60%. In 2000, perhaps 800,000 Africans died from malaria. In 2019, that had fallen to under 300,000. 500,000 people were being saved, largely because of this USAID program that cost $500 million a year. Part of the reason for its success was that Africans are ready for solutions. I worked in 2 West African countries, did research, ran a small development project, and started a cooperative. I spoke with women who had lost all or most of their children, most to malaria. They were the saddest people I'd ever met. Losing a child is the most devastating thing that can happen to a person. People are ready for solutions. I could talk about malaria a lot. I could describe the infection. I had it. I've also had salmonella, typhus, COVID. The other ones are walks in the park compared to malaria. I could talk about malaria's impact on history. For example, when the English first colonized North America, in South Carolina, the settlers used child labor. The English children all died from malaria. West African adults have survived malaria as a child and they are the only people in the world with some limited immunity, and that's how they got shackled. I could describe how malaria was eliminated in the South using, in part because it used DDT, which was carefully applied to the walls where mosquitoes live, and then blown out of crop dusting planes across vast cornfields where it killed everything, including birds, and got it banned. I could talk about how Africans have a unique genetic sequence that confers complete resistance to the type of malaria found in South America. about how sickle cell is a more drastic and damaging genetic change evolved for the terrible malaria in Africa. And I'd love to talk about how modifying red blood cells could be an anti-malarial strategy, but I can't. Because the president's initiative that has dramatically reduced mortality in Africa has just been ended by this administration. Not really by Trump, but by Elon Musk. He's the juggernaut attacking USAID. Musk is South African. He has had malaria. He knows what USAID does, as do most South Africans. He knows thousands of African children will die. Martin Luther King said, South African apartheid was the world's worst racism, and it is the simplest explanation. During COVID, services for the malaria program were reduced and deaths increased about 80,000. Now services are ended, so it's reasonable they will increase over 100,000. Losing a child is the worst experience a person can have. Please spread this message.